there is no excessive use of force. And so your perception is wrong.
Tonight, what happens when officers cross the thin blue line?
He has threatened our whole department.
Police and the public afraid of this man.
I'm extremely disappointed in Fox 13 News.
A sheriff just hours away from receiving a powerful state position.
When mistakes are made, we go back and fix them.
Emails show accusations of a rigged process.
The video of him intimidating the officer was sickening.
A thank you letter written to himself.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
And a video that almost got past everyone.
It really comes down to the future, your future in the police department.
That is the creation of the thin blue line.
Tonight, Fox 13 investigates policing the police.
We have to be held to the highest standards.
Now, in Salt Lake City, Fox 13 investigative reporter Adam Herbets.
The state of Utah is hoping to enter a new era when it comes to policing the police. The governor understands we give officers an incredible amount of power and authority, and for that reason, trust is everything. When there's a lack of trust, it prevents officers from doing their job. When there's too much, well, that's when we see videos like this. Accusations of Wasatch County Sheriff Jared Rigby bullying and intimidating police. We published it 2 years ago, but it got past the committee of his peers, it got past the Department of Public Safety, and it got past the governor. It never got past us.
Camera on. Matt, please have my glasses and my shoes. Thank you. I don't want to fight with you guys.
On March 31st, paramedics were treating Jesse James Rodriguez. Minutes earlier, his wife called to report he was drunk and wanted him out of the house. When Heber City Police got there, officers say Rodriguez tried to grab one of their guns.
I want to stop you.
Come on. There you go.
Chief Dave Booth was on scene. He says he was done being patient and decided it was time to take Rodriguez to jail. Officers say until this point, everything they saw was appropriate. But watch the chief's right hand as he struggles to get Rodriguez into the back of the police car.
I couldn't hear or tell if the suspect was breathing, couldn't hear or tell. I did see that it was a grab and there was pressure placed on the trachea.
This man is a veteran Heber City police officer who left the department but is still too nervous to reveal his name or face.
Nobody's allowed to do whatever they want. I don't care if you're the chief of police. You can't do that to somebody that's handcuffed in the back of a police car. You can't do that.
This is where our story of policing the police begins. A systematic plan to make this go away as soon as possible. Step 1, the chief can't investigate himself, so Heber City chose Wasatch County Sheriff Jared Rigby to take the case.
My concerns as a citizen are more after the incident. Whether those officers felt they were retaliated against after the fact.
In Heber, they say if the city was looking for a neutral third party, Rigby was the wrong choice because he's close friends with the chief. They go to church together.
The valley is not that big. It's really not.
And that's what brings us to step 2, keeping the story away from Fox 13. Multiple officers tell us the mayor called a mandatory police department meeting.
You'll be investigated, you'll be disciplined. If you talk about this, you're going to be disciplined. She was very upset. Somebody in our agency had gone to the media. She told us, and I quote her, and this is Colleen Potter from Heber City, that she believes in karma and karma's a b****.
Mayor, is it true that you told a room full of officers that, quote, karma is a b****? She would not answer, but the city attorney admitted it's true. And if that wasn't enough, the so-called investigation raised even more eyebrows.
The only way that you can get in trouble here is if you don't do what we ask you to do.
Videos obtained by Fox 13 showing Sheriff Rigby interviewing no one until after clearing the chief, lecturing officers instead of asking questions.
What Dave Booth did is not even use of force. It really comes down to the future, your future in the police department.
2 officers said they were retaliated against, and the city spent thousands of dollars settling the case.
Heber City does not endorse a culture of bullying or intimidation.
One of the officers also reported Rigby to POST, Peace Officer Standards and Training, the state agency in charge of investigating and disciplining police.
We need to be open, we need to be transparent. There's laws that require us to do that.
13 months later, Rigby was scheduled to be the director of POST, despite the complaint and an active investigation tied to that interview.
You can just hit play.
You can dig in your heels and say,
And that's not what I'm doing.
This is how I feel and no one's going to change. And okay, that's your decision. You just won't get any trusted positions having to do with DT and use of force and sergeant and those kinds of things because you're not willing to learn and be open-minded to it.
Would you like me to watch all of it, or?
Rigby said he could not talk about the case because of a conflict of interest with the active investigation.
As an incoming post director, it's not appropriate for me to speak about that matter. There's a pending case right now.
Were you asked about it as part of your interview process?
I'm sorry. I'm not able to speak to it, Adam, at this point.
Rigby's swearing-in ceremony was suddenly postponed after this interview and never rescheduled.
Lay hands on them, that's use of force. His opinion is concerning to me and probably should be with the public.
I appreciate the citizens of this great state who see the Fox 13 story for what it is, a misleading and inaccurate report.
When we return, Sheriff Jared Rigby fights back with a selfie video posted in the middle of the night.
They hang out together. They're buddies. How can you say you did a full, thorough investigation when your friend did your investigation?
This process should be started over anew in a transparent fashion.
Patients inside this psychiatric hospital have been getting sexually assaulted for years.
It's a Highland Ridge Hospital.
And employees say they were trained to not report it.
I was told verbatim not to call 911. I mean, we just kind of did what we had to do to keep our jobs.
It's a story we started to expose more than a year and a half ago.
Highland Ridge Hospital.
It's a hospital and I need somebody here stat.
Holy crap, this place is bad.
Even from the second I got there, I knew, like, I'm being exploited.
The state admits there's a pattern. On one hand, they've labeled the problem as habitual, but on the other, they've given second, third, and fourth chances to a facility that admits it can't keep its patients safe.
Harm coming to patients is unacceptable.
If it's unacceptable, then why not shut down the facility?
This is one that everyone needs to take a hard look at.
Please put them down. Hey, put those down, we don't want to do that.
It's Thanksgiving Day 2021, and Unified Police are trying to calm down another incident at Highland Ridge.
Just had my freedom stolen. I've been here for 24 hours, I haven't seen a doctor yet.
They've been out here for more than 100 cases since 2019. More than half the time, documents show it's because someone was reported physically or sexually violent.
I've worked at other facilities and I know that there is a way better standard out there, and Highland Ridge is the lowest of low.
The state has revoked the hospital's license at least 3 times after identifying dozens of problems, from over-medicating patients to falsified paperwork.
As a therapist, do you think patients left feeling better?
I don't know if I could put a percentage, but a very low percentage of them were actually getting the care that they needed.
Highland Ridge is basically a holding pen. You put them there, you put them on medication, and you leave them.
As you can see, some employees do not want to reveal their identity, too afraid to damage their careers in the healthcare industry. Others say they don't care anymore.
I probably knew about 10 to 15 when I was there.
Sexual assaults?
Yeah.
The stuff that happened, it just makes me feel uncomfortable.
Michael was 15 years old when he was at Highland Ridge for depression. He says there was no supervision. Some patients groped him, tried to have sex with him, or walked into his room while he showered.
I felt like they normalized it. The staff members there just didn't do anything. Like, they physically saw. They did touch me for their sexual pleasure.
The nurse wasn't even in the same room.
Whitney was 14 years old. She says she knew about kids having sex.
I could definitely see how that could easily get missed, and that's how sexual assaults happen.
They would transfer me to the unit, and then it would ring and ring and ring, and no one would answer.
Amy Robinson in Arizona says she didn't know her minor son had sex until after he got home months later. And when she asked, an employee remembered it.
And he's like, oh, I thought you knew about that. That happened on the hospital side. They must not have actually reported it. I wanted him to have STD testing, and they wouldn't do it in the hospital.
Did they report this to police or Child Protective Services?
Nope.
The law requires all hospital staff to report assaults and sexual assaults. If you don't, it's a crime. Police have investigated 48 of those types of cases since 2019, but it's difficult to know how many times Highland Ridge knew and did nothing. In the majority of rape investigations, victims or their parents are the ones who called police, not employees.
We were always told never call 911. If anything was happening in the building, we were to deal with it ourselves within the building, never outside of 40, no matter what. Even if it was an assault, a sexual assault, anything, no, we weren't allowed to call 911.
Should I just hang up? We think our patient may have died.
Piggy banks to you guys.
I haven't read the article about the news about the police quota.
It's on, it was an investigative journalism piece on Fox 13 last night.
I'll check it
If
out.
you haven't seen it, you need to see it.
Speed traps, I've seen cops with their lights off in hidden areas. Before you know it, the lights go on.
Drivers, lawmakers, and police officers hate it.
It's nonstop stress. How am I going to get my tickets? How am I going to get my numbers?
They call it a quota. The Ogden chief calls it a point system.
That's a quota. Sounds like a quota.
No, we do not have a quota.
Police quotas have been illegal since 2018, but tonight, Fox 13 investigates how Ogden thinks it found a different way to keep officers writing more tickets. Even if you're converting it from points to tickets, I still don't understand how that isn't a quota under the definition of the law. They say it pays to live in Ogden, but drivers say it's costing them on the roads.
In the beginning of the month, no cops are out. It's quiet. Towards the end of the month, they're everywhere.
If that's not a quota, I don't know what is.
More than half a dozen police officers who are too afraid to speak on camera say he's right. Drivers know exactly what's going on. They have to write tickets to make their bosses happy.
If you don't get a certain amount of tickets, you're going to be on a work improvement plan for sure.
Does Ogden PD have quotas?
No, we do not have a quota.
How would you describe it? Chief Eric Young says it's a point system to make sure officers are working hard. It's part of their annual evaluation and not the only thing they're graded on.
80 to 90% of officers writing citations is work. It's a critical part of keeping our communities safe.
So an officer isn't necessarily required to write a certain number of tickets, but they have to get a certain number of points?
They do.
You better get your numbers.
Here's an example of how the point system works. You pull someone over, give them a warning, that's 2 points. But let's say you're worried about your numbers. Officers say in that case, they're probably just going to give them a ticket. That's double, 4 points. State lawmakers banned quotas in 2018, but the chief says there is nothing illegal about what he's doing.
Well, I was working with the legislature when this bill came around, and I understood what the concerns were.
I think it's pretty obvious to your viewers what's going on here. This is associated with raising revenue.
According to the state auditor, Ogden makes more money per capita in fines and forfeitures than any other large city in Utah. Even if you're converting it from points to tickets, I still don't understand how that isn't a quota under the definition of the law.
To get above that moderate level, you'd only have to write 2 a week, which would be 8 a month.
What's the subject line say?
Subject is quota.
The department tells a completely different story in writing. 1 ticket every hour.
The standard in traffic has always been 1 citation per street hour. So if an officer works 75 street hours, they should have a minimum of 75 citations. And these guys are a joke. This is what makes people hate us.
People want to pitch it as a revenue builder. That's not it at all.
We wanted to know if that was true, and then we found this email from a lieutenant describing how the chief asked him to run some numbers. How many tickets an officer would need to write to pay for themselves. Goal: have citations pay for officers' wages, benefits, equipment, and vehicle.
I'm surprised that the chief's willing to go before the city council and the public and lie like that.
The presentation goes into specific detail, and this is how the math adds up. The average ticket, $130, which means an officer would need to write 2,080 citations a year. Again, that's 1 ticket an hour. Emails show they're already enforcing that standard for some, and actually, those officers are exceeding it.
That's a lot. This is so frustrating. This is why we don't want to work for him.
I believe in a living profit, but that doesn't mean I believe in magic.
Donors gave millions of dollars to a nonprofit to save children from human trafficking. Should donors be upset?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, documents show instead tens of thousands of dollars went to a psychic who claimed to be able to speak to the dead Mormon prophet Nephi for intel.
What's Nephi going to tell them?
This is where you need to go to find the trafficked children.
And how would Nephi know that?
The Utah Attorney General knew about it and is justifying it. He says police departments also use psychics and, on occasion, provide useful information.
It's not completely accepted. It's really fringe work.
I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Adam Herbets, and tonight we're fact-checking the Attorney General's statements, requesting hundreds of public records to see if any cases in Utah have actually been solved by speaking to the dead.
My mode, when I enter, it's like an induction, and it's between worlds. 3, 2, 1. Brrr. Download.
Most police officers say if they get solid, reliable information about a case from a psychic like Dr. Jewel, they'll look into it, even if they don't actually believe it came from beyond.
Police officers are very intuitive and emotional. I guarantee some of them are straight up psychic and they know it.
Dr. Jewel is a psychic and a medium. In case you didn't know, apparently that means she can speak to the dead. But she also understands why there are so many skeptics.
I get people who call, do you do missing persons? Yes. And I add to it on purpose, but I don't always get a happy ending. The assumption most of the time, even for me dealing with psychics, is I'm not a believer until I'm a believer. You have to prove it.
Do you believe in it at all?
No, not at all.
Frank Montoya spent 26 years as an agent with the FBI. He says they have to pick up the phone, no matter who's calling. Sometimes a psychic has info, but he's never heard of law enforcement spending taxpayer money on supernatural powers.
Psychics will also volunteer their expertise, if that's what you want to call it.
Would you call it expertise?
No.
It makes for good TV drama, not for good real life investigations.
Chris Burbank says he had psychics coming out of his ears in 2002, before he was the chief of Salt Lake City PD, looking for Elizabeth Smart.
Let's go. Come on, you guys. Thank you for joining us for this Fox 13 News special report. Elizabeth Smart found in Sandy.
So if a psychic were to get into a room, go into some sort of trance or seance, have a map in front of them, and then point on the map, this is where you need to search, your response would be?
No, I don't believe at all, personally.
But that's exactly how some describe the work of Janet Russin. She was hired by Tim Ballard, the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, to provide intel on child victims of human trafficking. No answer. the Davis County Attorney's Office documented Russin speaking to the dead Mormon prophet Nephi as part of a criminal investigation into the nonprofit. She received, quote, a monthly consultant fee of approximately $5,000 with an hourly/operational readings contract of approximately $1,560.
This is your reading from Nephi. You're always accompanied by angels.
Blaze Media obtained this audio clip of Russin giving a psychic reading to Ballard.
You are always meant to be the helm of all you are.
According to a civil lawsuit, Ballard took ketamine while talking to Nephi, listening to prophecies about his greatness and future as a United States Senator, President of the United States, and ultimately the Mormon prophet, to usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ.
I'm a Temple Recommend Holding member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They ought to be more insightful to know that that's not how it works. It's simply not how it works.
Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes says he was aware the nonprofit used a psychic. According to the AG's office, Reyes did not personally witness Janet provide operational intel, but psychics on occasion provide helpful information, leading law enforcement to useful evidence, including for lost or abducted individuals.
To say that this is a valid police technique, that is an inaccurate statement.
Should donors be upset?
Oh, absolutely.
Reyes is one of Tim Ballard's close friends and one of OUR's most ardent supporters.
I think he owes more to the public, especially because he talks about psychics as being useful as they are.
We wanted to see who else was using psychics, so we filed a public records request with every law enforcement agency in Utah, asking for anything related to the payment of a psychic in 2022 or 2023. How many responses do you think we've received?
Oh, none. Not a single one.
Yeah. 133 agencies said they don't use psychics. One didn't respond. Several thought the request was a joke.
I'm not a fan of utilizing taxpayers' money for that. I think psychics, if you're a good one, it's the icing on the cake or the cherry, and it's not the whole cake.
So this is an article that's still on the CIA website called Use of Psychics in Law Enforcement, approved for release in 2000. It would appear that a talented psychic can assist you by helping to locate a geographic area of a missing person, narrow the number of leads to be concentrated on, highlight information that has been overlooked, or provide information previously unknown to the investigator. Do you think there's such thing as a talented psychic?
No.
There are no good psychics and bad psychics. There are no talented psychics.
I do not believe so.
These are the same guys that thought that there was intelligence value to the use of LSD.
We asked the CIA if this research represents the agency's official views in 2023. We never got back a response.
Half of the psychics in the spiritual world are not gifted at all, and they're just there to show up and have money, to make money. They're charlatans.
The guy decides to swing at the next pitch because he guessed right that it's a fastball and he hits it over the fence. I mean, stuff like that does happen. I don't know if I'd call it psychic, but I would say intuitive.
I dare say I can pick 20 friends I know, including you, that would be very good at doing this and come up with just as accurate a case as anyone who claims to be a psychic.
You're saying I should be a psychic?
You should be a psychic.
According to the CIA research, any police agency that does use a psychic should find one that doesn't want the money and doesn't want the name recognition. If we're able to find a case in Utah where police did pay for a psychic, we will update this story. When your car gets towed, the state says some police are breaking the law.
I don't think there's an excuse for this.
He's right, there is no excuse.
The result, now it's harder for you to find your car while the fines rack up. We found hundreds of cases.
Probably more than that.
And it's the same police departments over and over again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's 16 pages worth of cases.
Fees already racked up to, $1,000.
I think this is something the public should be concerned about.
I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Adam Herbets. Tonight, we're looking at police paperwork and the impact it has on drivers when officers don't want to fill it out.
The car in front of me slammed its brakes,
After that, I just remember waking up at the hospital.
Anthony Sanchez was driving in Weber County and considers himself lucky.
This whole side of my body still hurts.
Eventually, he will be able to drive again.
There's a bruise across my chest, and then I have this on my chin. I have a broken nose, so my face is swollen. I think I hit the steering wheel, then the windshield.
His story is like hundreds of others. The ambulance picked him up before the tow truck grabbed his car. He was just trying to stay alive, not worry about the bill.
I didn't care about my car. I was worried about my kids. If I was gonna leave them and not be in their lives anymore.
When he got out, he had no idea where his car was. So he picked up the phone and started making calls. It took days. So do you know where it is now, or do you have an idea?
I'm not 100% sure.
According to state law, he was supposed to get something in the mail before the impound fees racked up. But that's only if police filled out the paperwork.
No letters in the mail saying, hey, here's where your vehicle's been towed. None of that. And I have my mail checked every day.
I appreciate what law enforcement does, but we have laws for a reason. I don't think there's an excuse for this.
Senator Mike McKell sponsored a bill that changed the law last year, requiring police to fill out the form. He says it was a no-brainer. It's easy to fill out, it protects drivers, and most officers are doing it.
This is every case so far.
Okay.
But when we showed him 573 complaints where the paperwork was not filled out, he got angry, especially because more than half of all cases are from the same 3 police departments.
When I look at this list and when I see Salt Lake City has 110, West Valley City has its 124, I mean, that's pretty brazen. Ogden City, 61. Why do they think they're above following the law?
According to the State Tax Commission, the actual number of cases is probably double or triple, but most don't know to report it.
If you're ordering a vehicle to be taken to an impound lot, we don't really care the reason, we just need to know about it. Because ultimately, the person that suffers if you don't let us know about it is the owner of the vehicle. They're the ones who may end up having their car auctioned because they can't find it.
AMS, this is Angie.
Tow companies are usually the ones filing complaints. They're not happy with police either. Their lots are getting full.
They don't want to do the extra paperwork. You have some that I think are very arrogant and they think they're above it. I think they're lazy.
Earlier this year, she recorded this phone call with the Layton Police Department. Watch and listen to what Officer Bruce Armstrong said when she asked for a copy of the state-required form.
I hope you've never got one from us.
You should, because the law changed in October and we're supposed to get one with every single one.
We've never done one.
I don't know why he would say that.
Our records show just 7 complaints against Layton PD. The department says that's because they now do fill out the paperwork every time.
What we did not anticipate was the downstream effect sometimes of the situations where we didn't do the form. We're not digging our heels in and refusing to do this.
Imagine I take 5 crashes a day and I've got to stop what I'm doing and do an impound form on every single crash.
This is like bad. To respond to his question, do I want all 5 filled out? Yes. If there's a tow and law enforcement is involved, the form should be filled out every single time. That's the whole point.
Senator McKell, the tow companies, and the state are all quick to point out the form is only half a page.
I don't think it's that big of a deal to fill them out. We just need to know that the vehicle's been towed.
So far, Ogden PD has not responded. Salt Lake City PD says it will review each case and that the state is not properly counting them. When we asked West Valley City for an explanation, a spokesperson for Chief Colleen Jacobs said, just because the police call for a tow company doesn't necessarily make it a police-requested tow.
Why do they not want consumers to know where their car is? This is data that I'm going to take and I'm going to go get some answers to.
Everybody should know where their vehicle goes. There are some good officers out there, but majority of them that I've ran into, it just seems like they're out to get you.